Okay, so we've got a deep dive today, going way back in time. We're talking Leviticus, chapter 3 specifically.
Yes. This one's all about the fellowship offering. It gets pretty detailed, laying out exactly how to offer up an animal.
Yeah, they're not kidding about the details. From the herd, from the flock, even goats. It's all in there.
It's fascinating stuff.
So what we want to do is sort of unpack this ritual, like what's the heart of it all, and maybe uncover some things along the way that people today would find, well, surprising to say the least.
Yeah, totally. I mean, when you get into Leviticus 3, you're really looking at how people connected with, with the divine, but also with each other. This idea of a shared offering. And like you said, it's incredibly specific.
It really is. Like right off the bat, you see this rule about the animal. It had to be without defect. Didn't matter if it was like their best bull or just a regular goat. Perfect condition, period.
Right. You can see that across the different animals they talk about. Herd, flock, goat, doesn't matter. Flawless.
So why all the emphasis on perfection, do you think?
Well, most likely it points to how important this offering was. They wanted to give their absolute best, like a sign of, sincere devotion.
Makes sense. Like you're not going to offer something broken or messed up if you're trying to show respect.
Exactly. Kind of sets the tone for the whole thing.
Absolutely. Okay, so then we come to this part, and I gotta say, it's pretty powerful imagery. The person bringing the offering, they had to lay their hand on the animal's head right before it was slaughtered.
Yeah. And they did that at the entrance to the tent of meeting, which, basically was their sacred space, their portable temple.
So what do you make of that whole laying on of hands thing?
Oh, that's a good question. It's generally understood as a way for the person to identify with the animal, almost like they're transferring something of themselves onto it.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah, like their intentions, maybe even a part of their very being. And it's right before this super significant act, the sacrifice.
And then enter the priests, right? Aaron's sons. They come in and, they splash the animal's blood against the sides of the altar. Seems like blood played a pretty big role in these rituals.
Oh, absolutely. It was huge. I mean, in tons of ancient cultures, blood was seen as deeply connected to life itself.
So you're thinking this act with the blood, it was kind of like offering life itself to the Lord.
Exactly. It was right at the heart of the whole sacrificial process.
Okay, then we get to the specifics of what was actually offered up. It's called the food offering to the Lord, and man, they do not skimp on the detail.
Nope. They lay it all out, don't they?
So for cattle and goats, we're talking internal organs, all the fat attached to those organs, the kidneys with the fat around them, and even a particular lobe of the liver.
And what's really interesting is, whether it's cattle or goats, those parts are always there. The organs, the kidneys, the liver lobe, always with the fat.
Oh, good point. And with a lamb, they add in the whole fat tail, too.
Yeah, the tail. Gotta think that was a big deal because, with some breeds of sheep, those tails are pretty massive, packed with fat.
Yeah, makes sense. So they take all these specific parts and they don't just chuck them, right? The priests burn them on the altar. And get this, it says they burn them right on top of the regular burnt offering.
Right. And the text even describes it as a pleasing aroma to the Lord.
What's with the emphasis on the smell, do you think?
I think it points to how they understood these offerings back then. Like it was a form of communication with the divine, maybe even a way to sustain them.
Interesting. So the burning, transforming the physical stuff into something more symbolic and putting it on the burnt offering, maybe that's like, I don't know, showing what's most important.
Could be. Definitely suggests some kind of hierarchy there.
Okay, so then there's this very clear statement. All the fat is the Lord's. And this wasn't just for, one type of animal. It was for everything. Cattle, sheep, goats, across the board.
Yeah, no mistaking that message. They're laying down the law, making it clear that this particular part, the fat, belongs to the Lord.
Yeah, and you got to think back then, resources could be scarce. So saying the fat, often the richest part, belongs to the Lord, that's a pretty big statement.
Absolutely. It underscores just how important this offering was to them.
And get this whole thing leads to what they call a lasting ordinance for the generations to come. Basically, they're forbidden from eating any fat or any blood, no matter where they live.
That's a major dietary restriction coming out of this.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just a suggestion, right? It was meant to be a permanent reminder.
Wow. So, woven into the fabric of their everyday lives through what they could and could not eat.
Exactly. It's a powerful way to connect this ritual to their daily lives, their relationship with the divine.
Okay, so let's try to sum this all up. The fellowship offering, it wasn't just one thing, it was a whole process.
Multi-step for sure.
You start with the perfect animal, then there's that personal act of, laying on hands, then the priests come in, handling the blood, burning those specific fatty parts, and it all revolves around this idea that the best belongs to the Lord. And then, boom, that impacts what they eat, like, forever.
It's a pretty amazing journey when you think about it. And all these incredibly detailed instructions, it really makes you wonder, what does it tell us about them?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, this level of detail, this meticulousness, it suggests a deep reverence, and a really structured way of relating to the divine. Like, every little thing matters.
Interesting.
It makes you think, are there things we do today that are kind of like that? Maybe the way we approach certain traditions or even, I don't know, technologies, things with surprisingly specific steps, but they reflect what we value most.
Like those values are woven into those actions, even if we don't always realize it.
Exactly. Definitely something to think about.